Chapter 63, Unstoppable. These men had been lying in wait for Leon all along. When they received intel about his route, they cut off traffic behind him, and blocked the flow ahead too. For a full stretch of highway, only Leon's car remained. The moment the Diomas Nilo appeared in sight, they opened fire. They weren't some neighborhood street gang. They were Ideon Corporation's kill team, cold, ruthless, efficient. Humanitarian rules didn't exist in their dictionary. If civilians were in the crossfire, so be it. Orders were clear: no survivors. Gunfire erupted, rattling the night. Inside the car, Elena and Hattie both went pale, instinctively ducking low. Their training as police and operative showed dodging bullets had become a reflex. Luckily, Leon's Diomas Nilo wasn't just any car. Its bulletproof design covered everything from the glass to the tires. No matter how hard they fired, bullets bounced off harmlessly, clinking away like pebbles against steel. The supercar roared forward, utterly unscathed. "How the hell is this possible?" shouted Jilung, the team leader, his voice cracking in disbelief. Their plan had been simple: riddle the car with bullets, blow out the glass, shred the tires, flip the body into the air, and reduce everyone inside to pulp. Instead, the windshield didn't crack. The tires didn't pop. The paint didn't even scratch. Even the paint job was bulletproof. What kind of monster car is this? Jilung's scalp tingled. The machine in front of him was less a car and more a tank in disguise. As the Diomas Nilo closed in, speed building like a missile, panic spread among the ambushers. "Move! Move!" Jilung roared, diving out of the way first. The others scrambled, scattering like ants. Leon didn't so much drive as launch. His speed rivaled a missile's nearly 1,000 km per hour. Getting hit by that meant instant death, bodies reduced to paste. Still, the Ideon mercenaries comforted themselves. "No way he'll actually ram us. If he crashes, even his car won't survive. He doesn't have the distance to brake. He's trapped." But Leon's answer was merciless. The Diomas Nilo straightened, locked onto their blockade of SUVs, and smashed forward like a cannonball. Boom! The impact shook the earth. 2 blockade cars were sent spinning into the air, crumpling like soda cans before crashing down in a heap of twisted metal. Windows shattered up and down the highway, alarms blaring in terrified chorus. And the Diomas Nilo? It burst through, barely slowing, its body intact, only a faint scrape along its armored skin. The Ideon soldiers froze, eyes wide. Was this a car, or an indestructible juggernaut? Even Ideon's labs hadn't built anything like this. So how the hell did a nobody mechanic like Leon end up driving it? Jilung's face hardened. He inhaled sharply. Then let's see if he can survive what's next. They'd planned for this possibility. Ahead on the highway, 10 heavy steel cables had been strung across the road. Any normal car hitting them would either flip instantly, or be sliced clean in two. And if by some miracle Leon survived that, there was more waiting. Rows of spiked barricades, hidden nets bristling with steel caltrops designed to shred any high-speed intruder. "Let him laugh while he can," Jilung sneered. "He'll be dead within minutes." He spat with contempt. To him, Leon was nothing more than a stray garage rat, a back-alley tuner who dared challenge a multinational powerhouse like Ideon. A beggar challenging a king? "With one finger, I can crush you." His phone buzzed. "The mines are planted," a cold voice reported. Jilung's eyes gleamed. He hung up without a word. This was the weight of Ideon: money, resources, reach. Anyone foolish enough to resist them would be buried. "Leon," Jilung laughed maniacally into the desert night. "When you arrive in hell, don't forget to tell them who sent you." Ideon. Even though his first ambush had failed, he laughed like a man who'd already won. And maybe, in his mind, he had because Leon had stacked the board with enough traps to kill an army. For Leon to survive, he'd have to be faster than fate itself. Patreon Advanced Chapters. patreon.com/dreamer20. Chapter 64, Spike Strip. Dioma's Nilo wasn't just fast, it was built different. Its soft metal body could dynamically adjust hardness under electronic control. The harder the impact, the softer the metal. Instead of crumpling like an ordinary car, the body flexed and absorbed energy. That's why Leon had dared to gamble betting that his monster of a machine could smash through a blockade without a scratch. As the looming silhouette of the black roadblock vehicle filled their view, the two women in the passenger seats shrieked in terror. Their faces drained white, lips trembling, eyes squeezed shut as they curled up defensively, clutching whatever they could hold onto. They were certain this was the end. Then boom! The collision shook the night. Energy blasted forward, tossing the blockade vehicle aside like a ragdoll. But Dioma's Nilo? It only jolted, rattling briefly before stabilizing under Leon's razor-sharp control. Not a single crack in the windshield, not even a dent to the body. The girls slowly opened their tear-rimmed eyes. They were pale, trembling, mascara-streaked faces ruined by panic and tears. We're alive. Elena stammered, her tongue tripping over itself as her hands continued to shake uncontrollably. Facing death that close was not something anyone could endure calmly. Hattie's legs were jelly, her voice faint and hollow. Just now, what even happened? Her vacant eyes told the story her soul had almost flown away. Riding with Leon wasn't a taxi fare, it was a gamble with your life. Did he always drive like this? Their expressions were chalk white, their fear immense, but mixed in was awe. For all their terror, they couldn't deny it, this man's skill was beyond anything they had seen. Meanwhile, Leon's chest heaved with exhilaration. His eyes burned with excitement. That rush, the raw chaos of smashing through obstacles, the violent thrill of unrestrained destruction, it lit a wildfire in his blood. Inside him, the desire for speed, for chaos, for dominance, surged uncontrollably. I told you, so long as I'm here, no one can touch you. Leon's confidence was unshakable. He wasn't boasting. He meant it. With his strength, even Captain America wouldn't stand a chance once he leveled up further. The girls, infected by his bold certainty, slowly breathed easier. But then... Warning! Emergency stop cable detected ahead. Prepare for evasive action. The onboard system's alert snapped Leon back to focus. These people just wouldn't quit. What's the clearance? Leon muttered, brow furrowing. 50 centimeters from the ground. That wasn't high. Even a child could hop that. And for a car with hydraulic jump gear, it was trivial. But ordinary cars? They'd be done for. Jump it? Leon asked. Not recommended. Multiple cables set at 50-meter intervals. Unable to clear all with jumping. And spike strips deployed in between. Attempting to jump may cause tire destruction, resulting in loss of control. Damn it! Of course. Leon wasn't stupid. He had anticipated Leon's instinct to leap over the traps. That's why he didn't just plant one cable, he laid several, with spike strips hidden between predicted landing zones. If Leon jumped, he'd land on shredders. Instant game over. It was ruthless. A masterstroke. Leon was giving Leon no way out. Can't I just gun it? Leon suddenly thought of the mounted weapons. Confirmed. Tires are non-pneumatic. Spike strip threat level minimal. Mounted guns may neutralize obstacles. Leon grinned. The system hadn't considered it, but he had. That was the difference between a computer and the West Coast King. System will auto-lock on cables and spike traps. Firing controls automated. Driver should focus solely on driving. Perfect. Leon had been worried about aiming, but the system had his back. To a computer, locking targets was child's play. "Then let's roll," he shouted, stomping the accelerator. Dioma's Nilo roared forward, its engine screaming like a beast unleashed. The thunderous growl shook the desert air, stirring blood and igniting adrenaline. Even the girls, clinging desperately to the handles, felt their hearts race with the sheer violence of speed. The car blasted across the desert outskirts of Las Vegas, dust and sand whipping up behind it. Here, the loose soil made it difficult to anchor cables except in canyon regions where stone allowed solid fastening. That's where Idion's trap waited. Leon's instincts sharpened. Activating machine gun. A hatch slid open on the hood, a heavy barrel gun rising smoothly from its compartment. Its base locked seamlessly into the car's structure, no gaps, no weakness. Target locked. Firing. The muzzle erupted with flame, a meter-long tongue of fire belching destruction. Bullets tore into the asphalt, ripping holes in the highway like miniature craters. The deafening barrage was a storm of violence, tearing through everything in its path. The first cable snapped instantly under the onslaught, flailing uselessly before breaking in two. Dioma's Nilo surged forward unhindered. And there it was, the spike strip. Professional-grade law enforcement equipment, designed to end high-speed pursuits. But this time, the system held fire. Because if the bullets shredded the strip, fragments would remain on the road. At 900 km per hour, those shards would embed themselves into the tires, spelling disaster. The system made the call, "Don't shoot. Barrel through." But could even Dioma's Nilo handle it? Patreon Advance Chapters. patreon.com/dreamer20. Chapter 65, 10 Seconds of Shock. Could he really make it through? Leon wasn't sure. This was his first time truly testing these experimental non-pneumatic tires. He knew they were bulletproof, resistant to blowouts. But spike strips? That was another matter. If the massive energy kicked the strip up, tangling it into the car's undercarriage, that would spell disaster. Still, there was no turning back. The bow was drawn, the arrow had to fly. "Hold on tight." Leon's voice cut sharp, more serious than either woman had ever heard before. Swoosh! Dioma's Nilo streaked across the strip. It felt like rolling over a speed bump, a dull thud and nothing more. No punctures. No blowouts. Not even a wobble. Leon let out a long breath, glancing in the rearview mirror. The strip was still anchored firmly to the ground, unmoved, unrolled. Its sheer quality was almost ironic. Idion's men had used such reliable equipment only to watch it fail completely. Leon burst into wild laughter, stomping the throttle as the speedometer rocketed upward again. Within a single kilometer, he blasted through cable after cable, spike strip after spike strip without so much as a pause. High above on a desert ridge, a spotter slowly lowered his binoculars, his face pale, jaw hanging so wide it looked like it might dislocate. "God, what the hell is that thing? Is that even a car?" he muttered, trembling. He had just witnessed the impossible, a kilometer of traps passed in less than 10 seconds. No damage. Not even a scuff on the tires. Non-pneumatic tire tech was supposed to still be in research labs. Yet Leon's car ran with it flawlessly, as if it were decades ahead of schedule. The spotter's hands shook as he grabbed his radio. "Boss, we can't stop him." "What?" Jilong's roar exploded through the speaker. He glanced at his watch, eyes bulging. "It's only been a few minutes. He's already at the next trap? Did you screw up? Did the cables come loose?" Shock rippled through him. 3 minutes, no less. How could anyone cover that distance so fast? Was Leon driving a fighter jet? His mind screamed at the thought. "No, boss." He shot the cables with machine guns. Jilong snarled. "Then the spike strips. The tires blew, right?" Get your men in position and stop him. But the spotter's voice cracked, almost breaking into sobs. The tires didn't blow. He just rolled straight over them. Not a scratch. Not even the rubbers shaved. Damn it all. What are we using, toy rubber? Jilong cursed viciously. His perfect plan, airtight on paper, collapsed like tissue against Leon. He slammed his fist against the console. You useless trash! How long can you at least delay him? Boss! The spotter's voice trembled. He's already cleared all of them. He's almost at the next obstacle zone. What? Jilong's voice cracked into hysteria. Worthless idiots! You just stood there watching him drive off? Throw grenades, do something, you morons! Clutching his forehead, Jilong groaned in agony. These men weren't just stupid, they were brainless. The spotter choked out his defense, it's not our fault. His car was past us in less than 10 seconds. A whole kilometer, gone like that. We didn't even have time to raise our rifles. Jilong froze, eyes widening. 10 seconds? You're telling me he cleared a kilometer full of obstacles in 10 seconds? His mind reeled. Even Brixton Idion's enhanced operative with his cybernetic augmentations and AI-assisted bike wouldn't dare to take corners without braking. But Leon? Leon never even touched the brakes. This wasn't driving. This was madness. Jilong's spine prickled with dread. Normally, a kilometer at full speed took a minute or more, even for elite racers. Leon had done it 6 times faster with traps in his way. If there had been no obstacles? The speed was unthinkable. Unreal. Terrifying. The reality sank in, shaking his very worldview. Leon wasn't just fast, he was rewriting the very concept of speed. And if Jilong had known the truth that Leon had actually covered it in about 7 seconds, not 10, his mind might have shattered entirely. Inside the car, the atmosphere was the opposite of dread. Leon let out a victorious laugh, exhilaration blazing in his chest. It was like a cat playing with mice, except the cat had guns, armor, and jet engines. The machine gun's roar blended with the Dioma's Nilo's furious engine howl, a symphony of violence and glory. Now that's music! Leon shouted, slamming the accelerator to the floor. The car howled like a beast, hurricane winds spiraling in its wake as its regal dominance returned in full. New York, here we come. Let's see if you can keep up. Hattie and Elena clung to their seats, still pale, still trembling, but their eyes burned with something else now: respect. Awe. Even fear gave way to admiration. Leon was no ordinary driver. He was a storm given flesh and steel. Patreon Advanced Chapters. patreon.com/dreamer20. Chapter 66, 66, A Bold Idea. Leon, how did you even train your driving skills? Hattie asked, her face pale. Her already fair skin had gone ghostly white, lips drained of color as if she were anemic, though really, it was just Leon's insane driving that scared the life out of her. Train? Why train? You just press the accelerator and brake, that's all there is to it. Leon shrugged, speaking the plain truth, well, his version of it. The truth was, he didn't need practice at all. Everything he knew came straight from the system. The moment it activated, driving skills poured into his body as if he'd been born with them. Practice? That word didn't exist in his world. Hattie was struck speechless. She wanted to argue, but what could she say? Maybe this was the definition of a true genius. Geniuses don't struggle. They don't grind. They just do what others call impossible as if it were child's play. What others see as a mountain climb, they treat like walking across the street. Only that level of talent could explain why Leon's driving was beyond belief. Some people are just too damn lucky. I envy you, Hattie muttered under her breath. She thought back to her own training. As an MI6 agent, her driving scores in the academy had been perfect. She used to feel proud of that. But next to Leon, her so-called perfection was laughable. Compared to him, she was a child wobbling on training wheels. Even if you gave her the Dioma's Nilo, with her skills she could maybe push it to 280 km per hour. If she strained herself, perhaps barely 300. But that wasn't even scratching the surface of what the Nilo was capable of. For this machine, 300 km per hour was a leisurely jog like an old man strolling through a park. Without Leon, the Dioma's Nilo was wasted potential. That was why both Hattie and Elena admired him so much. Warning, high-risk hazard ahead. Spiked barricade detected. Distance, 10 kilometers. The system's voice filled the cabin. On the HUD, a flashing red alert pulsed. Ordinary roadblock vehicles extend metal nets from their sides like wings, designed to snare and stop cars. But the Americans had a love for dramatic barricades like Barricade, the Mustang police Decepticon from Transformers. In fact, the roadblock car they were using here wasn't far off. A Ford Mustang Saleen S281, fitted with the GT500S V8 engine, pushing over 550 horsepower, reinforced with steel ramming bars and police gear. Line up several of those across the road, and street racers would have no chance. Jilong had already tried this tactic earlier, but Leon had shredded through it like tissue paper. This time, they weren't messing around. They rolled out the heavy-duty barricade trucks, upgraded monsters fitted with spikes and steel lances. If you dared to ram into them, the price would be catastrophic. The barricade trucks were even designed with reinforced ground anchors to absorb impacts, making them immovable walls. Short of a plane crashing down with massive force, no car on Earth could smash through. Even if you did, your vehicle would be reduced to scrap. Leon's mind raced. He quickly asked his car's system. "Can we just gun them down with the machine guns?" "Negative," the system replied instantly. "The barricade nets are reinforced with spikes. Forced ramming would cause severe vehicle damage and endanger passengers. If it were just plain metal nets, the system could have blasted a hole through and powered on. But the spikes were the problem, small, sharp, and deadly. At high speed, their penetration power increased exponentially. Even a bulletproof body wasn't guaranteed to withstand such focused piercing. "Jump over it!" Elena suddenly shouted from the back seat. Leon whipped his head around, stunned. "You've got an idea. Your car is outfitted with a hydraulic lift system," she explained rapidly. "If you trigger it at the right time, the car can vault into the air. Then, ignite the nitrous thrust plus momentum equals lift. Like a plane taking off." Leon's eyes lit up. "Brilliant. Yes, if the hydraulic system provided the initial bounce, and the nitrous gave the push, the Dioma's Nilo could leap clear over the barricade. No wasted bullets. No damage. Just pure airtime. They couldn't fly 100 meters high, of course, but a clean 10 meters? Absolutely doable. Combined with the car's insane speed and inertia, it would be enough. Good thinking. Letting you join the team was the right call after all." Leon grinned ear to ear. He turned back to the system. "Run the simulation. Is it feasible?" "Running analysis." The HUD flickered, displaying a 3D simulation. The Dioma's Nilo raced forward, hydraulics launched it into the air. The nose tilted upward, rear angled down, perfect liftoff geometry. Nitrous ignited, a jet of flame blasted from the exhaust, and the trajectory climbed. From a mere 3-meter hop, the leap shot up to 11 meters well over the barricade trucks. The simulation marked the plan green. Success probability, above 80%. Good. Then we're doing it. Leon's adrenaline spiked. Another insane stunt, another chance to defy the impossible. Barricade trucks? To him, the sky was wide open. Nothing could stop him now. Meanwhile, at the barricade site, the squad waited. Their commander, Wadia, a hulking black man with a submachine gun strapped to his chest, watched the road calmly. "Hat, Jilong really is trash," Wadia sneered. "Couldn't even stop one damn car." Patreon Advanced Chapters. patreon.com/dreamer20. Chapter 67, Shockwave. Inside Ideon, not everyone was united. The organization was built on a web of power and profit, and where there was profit, there were factions. Anyone with even a shred of ability acted like they were the king of the world. Even when sent on missions together, rivalries brewed just under the surface. Take Wadia, for example. He had wanted the vanguard position, the honor of leading the strike force, replacing Jilong's role. That way, he would be the one to claim the glory. But Jilong had stolen the spot first, and Wadia fumed. To him, Jilong hadn't earned it with skill he'd gotten there through connections. Watching him strut around giving orders made Wadia's stomach churn. And worse, Wadia himself had been shoved into a rear position. Jilong framed it as holding the final defensive line, but everyone knew the truth. He wanted his own lackeys in the front to rack up merit while Wadia sat in the back eating dust. It burned him. After all, his marksmanship, tactics, and close-quarters combat were leagues above Jilong's. Yet here he was, left behind, smoking and idle while others took credit. Anyone in his shoes would be pissed. At first, he thought Leon was dead for sure. But then he received the call Leon had broken through. And now, Leon was coming his way. Wadia blinked. For Leon to make it this far was shocking. So much for Jilong's command. "Can't even stop a damn mechanic," he sneered. Out loud, it sounded like he was mocking Jilong's incompetence. But really, it was also a jab at Leon, belittling him as nothing more than a garage grease monkey. "That's right, boss. Jilong's nothing compared to you," one of his men said. "West Coast car god? What a joke," another added. "That kind of title is child's play. In Ideon, we've got plenty of so-called car gods. Boss Wadia has crushed more racers than we can count." His underlings showered him with flattery, mocking Leon while inflating Wadia's ego. In their eyes, Leon's survival wasn't proof of skill, it was Jilong's incompetence that had let him slip by. If Leon had faced Wadia instead, there'd have been no chance. Wadia puffed his chest. If he claimed to be the second best in the universe, nobody would dare ask who the first was. "Hat, I'll show him what happens when he tries to pass my checkpoint." "Ha ha ha." Wadia laughed, his arrogance overflowing. To him, his spiked barricade trucks were unbeatable. Even if Leon rammed them, it would be suicide. "A worthless mechanic," Wadia spat. "Racing isn't for the likes of you." To him, Leon was nothing more than a low-class repairman, someone who belonged under a hood, not behind the wheel of a hypercar. Daring to challenge Ideon was a disgrace in itself. Then came the sound. From far off, the roar of an engine, deeper and more violent than thunder, surged across the road. It wasn't a car, it was a beast of the prehistoric age, charging straight at them. "He's coming. Get ready!" Wadia barked, snapping his men to alert. 10 armed subordinates crouched behind the barricades, guns raised, waiting. They assumed a mechanic's car couldn't be that fast. Naive thought. Because the very next second, reality slapped them across the face. From the bend up ahead, a black silhouette exploded into view. At first, they thought it had oversteered, no way it could hold the line at that speed. But then it corrected perfectly, slicing out of the curve dead center, hugging the ideal racing line. And then, it accelerated. The Dioma's Nilo roared, black paint glinting like a predator's hide, and its velocity spiked to insanity. It wasn't fast, it was faster than fast. Bullets were slow compared to this. Hell, this thing moved like a missile tearing across the road. Their jaws dropped. Hands holding rifles trembled. Fingers froze on triggers. They were too stunned to even shoot. Just seconds ago, they had mocked Leon as a garage monkey. Just seconds ago, they had laughed about his slow little car. Just seconds ago, they had called him garbage. Now, the mechanic was piloting a missile straight at them. If that car struck, anyone in its path would be sent flying 100 meters or more. My God, this isn't a car, it's a plane crash landing, one shouted. My legs won't move, another stammered. Save me. How the hell are we supposed to stop that? The bravado drained from them instantly, leaving only fear. Half their will to fight evaporated before the battle even began. Standing in the path of the Diomas Nilo's charge? That required courage no man here possessed. Bastards! Shoot! Fire, damn it! Wadia bellowed, veins bulging with fury. His soldiers, so bold minutes ago, had turned into trembling cowards. How could his men be so useless? They made him look like a fool. Fire! Wadia screamed, pulling the trigger himself. His submachine gun roared, spitting fire, a storm of bullets raining at the oncoming car. The others finally followed, unleashing a deafening hailstorm. Spent shells clattered on the ground as barrels smoked from the heat. But the Diomas Nilo didn't slow. Not a scratch. Not even a crack in its bulletproof glass. Impossible. Wadia's eyes went wide, his soul nearly leaving his body. Even the strongest armored vehicles couldn't withstand sustained fire from 10 SMGs without so much as a spiderweb crack in their windows. But this car? This car shrugged it off like raindrops. What kind of machine were they facing? Desperation clawed at him. Wadia kept firing, then yanked out a sidearm, adding more futile rounds. Bring out the grenade launchers. Use the damn launchers, he roared in panic. Patreon Advance Chapters. patreon.com/dreamer20. Chapter 68, Leaping the Roadblock. At last, someone finally thought of using heavy weapons. Bullets had no effect, the firepower wasn't enough. But a grenade launcher? That was different. Grenades exploded on impact, unleashing devastating power. Hand grenades couldn't reach at this distance. But a launcher could. And Leon's car was still within range. Stop wasting time. Get the damn grenade launcher out, roared Wadia, his patience snapped as he kicked one of his men to the ground. A terrified subordinate quickly stumbled forward, lugging the heavy weapon and trying to hand it to Wadia. But Wadia only grew angrier. What the hell am I supposed to do with that? Fire it yourself. Or do you expect me, your boss, to do it for you? This wasn't his job. If he fired and missed, not only would it look pathetic, but the blame would fall on him. Such tasks were for underlings, not the leader. Why yes, boss, the subordinate stammered, fumbling to set it up. With a dull thump, the first grenade shot into the air. Leon barely even twitched the steering wheel, and the Diomas Nilo slid past effortlessly. The grenade exploded harmlessly on the roadside, showering dirt but not even scratching the car. Useless. Aim properly, damn it! Wadia howled, his face twisted in rage. Why yes. The underling nodded like a fool, loading another round and taking careful aim. Another thump. The grenade traced a clean arc, falling toward Leon. But this time Leon didn't even bother dodging. He simply kept his foot down, blasting straight through. By the time the grenade exploded, he was already far past the danger zone. Wadia nearly spat blood. Trash. Every last one of you is trash. In his fury, he pulled out his pistol and executed the hapless gunner on the spot. The rest of his men fell silent, trembling with terror. Keep firing. Don't you dare retreat! Wadia roared. His men scrambled, unleashing a hail of bullets at the incoming car. But it was pointless. Not a single shot left a mark. Against the Nilo's armor, it was like scratching an itch. Could roadblocks really stop a monster like this? Doubt flickered through their minds. The Dioma's Nilo hurtled closer, faster than anything they'd ever seen. The sheer speed radiated menace. This wasn't some custom garage project. Even Ideon, with all their advanced tech, didn't have a car like this. Fear spread among Wadia's crew. Their mouths went dry, their bodies numb. In the blistering summer heat, it felt like the dead of winter. They could almost see their breath misting in the air. And then, when they thought the Nilo was about to ram them head-on, it did something impossible. The hydraulic system activated, the car's nose lifting high off the ground. What was this? Was it trying to jump? Eyes widened in disbelief. Was Leon actually going to leap the blockade? And then the impossible happened. The Nilo launched upward, its momentum hurling it into the air. Too low. It couldn't possibly clear the roadblock. That was what they thought. Until the car's exhaust ports roared alive, blasting out jets of azure flame. The raw power hammered against the ground, propelling the Nilo higher like a rocket breaking free of Earth. The crowd gasped. Is that nitrous? Could he actually take off like a plane? Ideon operatives below could only gape, jaws hanging open as the Nilo soared. Blue fire trails lit the sky as it flew clean over the barricade. He did it. Am I seeing things? That car is flying. I've never seen anything like this. What a driver! Even those who had mocked Leon before now stared in awe. Their hearts pounded as if a storm had erupted within them. This was the difference. Leon wasn't someone they could look down on. He was on another level, a man to be admired from the ground as he soared overhead. The Nilo cleared the roadblock in a graceful arc and slammed back down with a heavy thud. The suspension shuddered but held steady, stabilizing in an instant. And then a surprise. From the rear of the Nilo, a hidden machine gun deployed. Target locked. Fire, the onboard system intoned. The gun spat fire. Chaos erupted. Wadia's men were mowed down in seconds, screams echoing across the blockade. Some dropped instantly, torn apart by the brutal rounds. One man tried to crawl away, but his arm was shredded, blood spraying as if ripped apart by bare hands. The scene became a slaughterhouse. Blood painted the asphalt. A few lucky ones escaped by diving behind cover outside the system's scanning range. But for most, there was no escape. Leon's laughter rang out from within the Nilo. He flipped them a middle finger as the car roared away, leaving the carnage behind. The blockade had been utterly meaningless. Meanwhile, what? He jumped it. Jilong received the report and was struck dumb. Leon hadn't smashed through. He hadn't simply gunned down his way across. He'd jumped the entire blockade. Using nitrous to launch into the sky like some circus stunt? Jilong's head throbbed. His flawless plan had collapsed in an instant. Useless. All of them, useless, he raged, smashing his walkie-talkie into the ground. His chest heaved with fury. He had never imagined this outcome. Leon had broken through with a method even experts wouldn't dare dream of. Only the minefield remains, Jilong muttered darkly, his eyes burning with hatred. 10,000 mines ahead, they'd better finish him. Patreon Advanced Chapters. patreon.com/dreamer20. Chapter 69, Unbelievable Speed. Jilong had anticipated this situation. If Leon brute forced his way past the roadblocks, how could they possibly stop him in the end? The answer he came up with was mines. He had a minefield laid across the highway. Once a car drove over, the pressure would trigger the detonators and set off massive chain reactions. One blast would set off the next, row by row, until the entire section of road erupted. He even accounted for the possibility that Leon's car might be too fast enough to outpace the mine's reaction time, leaving the explosions behind. To prevent that, Jilong had laid special trigger lines. As soon as the car rolled over them, they'd ignite mines ahead of the vehicle's position. There would be no escape. This time, you won't sprout wings and fly away, Jilong muttered, eyes gleaming with murderous intent. He had put tremendous effort into this plan. Wadia was already dead, shot down as soon as Leon had marked him. But Jilong felt no grief. He'd long despised Wadia. If Leon killed him, all the better. Ideon would hardly complain. If the minefield finished Leon off too, then the mission would be perfect. Just wait, Leon. You'll be blown to pieces, Jilong laughed wildly, the sound grating and manic. Meanwhile, Leon himself burst into laughter after blasting through the roadblock. That was awesome. His every cell felt like it was boiling with exhilaration. Especially the slaughter at the blockade. Seeing the enemy scatter like rats had been pure ecstasy. Leon wasn't the type to tolerate ambushes without retaliation. If not for the urgency of the mission, he would have stepped out of the Nilo and gone on a killing spree. But inside the car, Hattie and Elena weren't nearly as thrilled. When the Nilo had gone airborne, it felt like they were passengers on a plane. And when it slammed back down, they'd nearly been thrown from their seats. The experience was more terrifying than any roller coaster. I swear, that was the wildest ride of my life, Hattie said weakly, her voice drained. She looked like she'd been wrung out completely. I never should have suggested this, Elena added, pale enough that not even lipstick could hide her bloodless lips. Both women's legs trembled uncontrollably. Leon's driving was something out of nightmares. Leon only laughed. Hang in there a little longer, we'll be in Utah soon. What? Already? Elena gasped. The distance from Las Vegas to Denver was around 500 kilometers, a 5-hour drive under normal conditions. Yet Leon claimed they were almost there already. It didn't sound possible. It feels like we only just left Vegas. Elena muttered in disbelief. Utah can't be that close, can it? Hattie added, her eyes wide. Half an hour less than that, and Leon claimed they were crossing state lines. What kind of speed was this? What's our current speed? Elena finally asked. 900, Leon said casually. Both women froze. Their bodies went cold. 900 kilometers per hour. That wasn't driving anymore. That was a jet fighter. How could a human even react fast enough? Elena stared out the window, watching the landscape blur into streaks of color, and realized she could never in her life handle what Leon was doing. Normal drivers initiated a drift when the curve was right in front of them. Leon? He was already drifting from half a kilometer away, reading the road like a god. This pace? Elena whispered, at this rate we'll reach New York by midnight. Hattie glanced at her watch. Not even 6 yet. They'd left around 5. Half an hour from Vegas to Utah. Another half hour to Denver, 500 kilometers gone in a blink. That was already 1/3 of the trip to New York. Next would be Chicago by the Great Lakes, 2/3 done. After that, it was a straight shot east. A journey that normally took 40-50 hours was being compressed into 5. Nearly 10 times faster than normal. As Leon had said earlier, that extra 30 million investment in the Nilo was worth it. Then the onboard system suddenly spoke. Warning, minefield detected 1 kilometer ahead. Nearly 10,000 explosive devices buried across the road. Strategy required. Damn it, are they insane? Leon cursed aloud. America's freedom really was something else. Grenade launchers, missiles, now a minefield of 10,000 explosives? Just lying in wait on a public road? Didn't the government fear that one of these groups might turn their weapons inward one day, storming the White House itself? Leon wouldn't be surprised if someone had tanks and APCs lying around for the right price. Can we go off-road, into the wilderness? Leon asked. Negative, the system replied coldly. The ambush is positioned between 2 cliffs. Dithering would add several hundred kilometers to the route. That was the problem. In peacetime, maybe it wouldn't matter. But with enemies actively hunting them, every half-hour wasted meant giving Ideon more time to prepare the next ambush. If he changed course now, he'd likely be forced into more detours later. New York would be out of reach. Leon clenched his teeth. He couldn't give them that satisfaction. What if we just blast straight through? The car's fast enough, Elena suggested. But the system immediately rejected it. Negative. The mines are linked. Triggering one will detonate all within a 1 kilometer radius. Vehicle survival rate, 0. Leon frowned. This wasn't going to be simple. Whoever set this up wasn't stupid. Then what about jumping over it? Leon asked. Impossible. The minefield is set on a curved road. Midair, you cannot turn. The vehicle will crash into the mountain wall and trigger the mines. No chance of survival. That idea died instantly. Neither charging through nor jumping it was an option. Leon's expression tightened. Was dithering the only way? Then a spark of inspiration struck him. What if we use the machine gun? He thought back to the logic. The mines detonated when triggered. One explosion set off the rest in a chain reaction. So what if he intentionally detonated them, from a safe distance? Blow the whole field sky high before even setting a wheel on it. Then simply cruise through the wreckage. Why avoid danger, when you could obliterate it instead? Patreon Advanced Chapters. patreon.com/dreamer20. Chapter 70, Thunder in the Valley. Only children choose to run away. Leon, however, chose to face danger head-on. He had a gun. Why not use it to detonate the mines? When Jilong was laying down those explosives, it never crossed his mind that Leon's car could be armed with a Gatling turret. Even after Wadia was gunned down earlier, Jilong hadn't realized the kill shot came from a vehicle-mounted heavy machine gun. Now, sitting back smugly, puffing on a cigarette, waiting for news of Leon's inevitable death, he was about to be sorely disappointed. Ahead, the mountain road bent sharply. Leon flicked the steering wheel. The Dioma's 330's tires screeched as rubber ground into asphalt, raising plumes of grey smoke and leaving black scorch marks across the road surface. The sports car drifted in one fluid motion, violent yet elegant. The black tire trails ripped across the pavement, jagged and fierce, but the curve was executed so smoothly that it looked like a perfect brush stroke. No clunky resistance, no awkwardness like ordinary sports cars. Just pure mastery. The Diomas flashed through the curve like lightning. By the time it was gone, the wind itself lagged a second behind, sweeping up sand, trash, and even uprooting roadside weeds. The ground itself seemed to peel away. Speed so terrifying, even the wind couldn't keep up. What else in the world could stop it? Minefield locked ahead. 1 kilometer stretch, nearly 10,000 explosives detected. Recommend immediate action. The car's windshield flickered, turning into a heads-up display, overlaying a dense swarm of red dots across the road. Each dot marked a live mine. Elena, in the back seat, went pale. My God, not just the road, there are bombs packed into the mountain walls too. This wasn't just a trap, it was a massacre zone. Touch one mine, and the whole field would chain detonate. Not even tanks or APCs would make it through alive. Despicable. Elena hissed through clenched teeth. Ideon will stop at nothing. Rockets, barricades, now a minefield. They're throwing military hardware at us like toys. Leon chuckled, voice steady. Hat, buckle up. Time to fire. The Vulcan cannon roared to life. Its terrifying rate of fire, up to 6,000 rounds per minute, turned everything ahead into Swiss cheese. 8 barrels spun at once, spitting tongues of fire. There was no need to aim carefully. At this speed, sheer volume guaranteed results. Boom! The earth-shaking blast ripped across the canyon, setting off the first wave of mines. A split second later, the entire minefield chain reacted. The shockwave thundered outward, churning up a storm of dust and debris. The ground trembled violently as though a dragon had awakened beneath the desert. Gravel and sand hammered against the car's reinforced windows like hail, threatening to shatter even military-grade glass. Elena and Hattie screamed, curling up in their seats, hands clamped over their ears, eyes squeezed shut. They were sure the car would be blown sky-high. But Leon sat calmly, both hands gripping the wheel, eyes fixed forward, reading the chaos like a conductor leading an orchestra. Before them, a towering wall of sand and debris, hundreds of meters high, rose into the air and hung like an inverted waterfall. It blotted out the sky, majestic and terrifying. Leon tilted his head back, staring up at the earthen curtain. Against that colossal spectacle, he was but an ant, yet his heart surged with adrenaline. His chest heaved, and for the first time in a long while, he felt truly alive. "Charge!" he roared. He floored the accelerator, unleashed the nitrous, and the Diomas spat 8 blazing blue flames from its exhausts. The engine howled like a beast breaking free of chains, and the car plunged headlong into the storm. Inside the dust cloud, visibility went to 0 until the HUD switched to ultrasonic imaging mode. The grey chaos dissolved, replaced with sharp outlines glowing white. Every rock, every contour of the road was rendered in perfect clarity. The Diomas didn't need eyes, it could see through the storm. But the minefield had triggered a landslide. The mountain walls collapsed, and boulders the size of houses rained down like meteors from heaven. The canyon looked like the end of the world itself. To any other driver, this was certain death. But Leon? He slammed the gear, shouted, "More speed," and the car surged forward like a bullet. As the avalanche rained down, the Diomas launched upward, nose lifting skyward, blue flames trailing like a comet. For a breathtaking moment, it looked as though the tiny car had leapt straight into the heavens. And then it landed on one of the massive falling boulders. Instead of being crushed, Leon used the boulders as stepping stones. "No road? Then I'll make one." The Diomas raced across the tumbling rockfall, bouncing from one slab to another, defying every law of physics. Meanwhile, miles away, Idion's henchmen watched from their surveillance point. When the minefield detonated, they cheered wildly, high-fiving and laughing. "Yes! Finally nailed him! Jilong's a genius! Nobody survives that! 10,000 mines, boom! Not even tanks could walk away from that." Through the rising dust cloud, they could still see the smoke column reaching into the sky. Their confidence was absolute. "Dead for sure. The shockwave alone flattened the canyon, no way he's alive. Ha ha ha, get ready to cash in, boys. We're rich." One of them even grabbed the radio. "Boss, good news. The minefield went off." It was beautiful, massive collapse, 500-meter dust plume. Leon's toast. Jilong exhaled in relief, watching the distant smoke. Yes. Nobody could have survived that. But then, a thunderous engine roar echoed from within the dust storm. Something was coming out. Patreon Advanced Chapters. patreon.com/dreamer20. Chapter 71, Breaking the Sound Barrier. Idion's men stood frozen, their eyes wide and lifeless as if they'd been turned to stone. Just moments ago, they were bragging to Jilong, swearing that after seeing Leon's car blown sky-high, there was no way anyone could have survived. But now, the unmistakable roar of an engine came from the smoke. They glanced at each other, each face reflecting the same shock. Impossible. Not even 10,000 landmines could keep him alive. Even Batman's car isn't that tough. Is it really him, coming out of there alive? Their faces went pale, then flushed green, the color of their certainty draining away. Seconds ago, they'd spoken with such confidence, "Leon is dead." And in the blink of an eye, reality slapped them raw. Leon wasn't dead. He wasn't even injured. His car was still running at full power untouched. The next second, piercing headlights cut through the thick smoke. The black, split-front beast roared out of the dust like a conquering king. The violent, thunderous growl of the engine shook the air, tearing at eardrums. Boom! Dust rattled loose from the chassis, only to be blown away in an instant by the car's ultrasonic wipers, leaving the vehicle gleaming fresh, flawless, reborn. The Dioma's Nilo burst from the smoke, its tail spitting out a funnel of exhaust like a war standard trailing behind. It was as if an ancient warlord, leading 100,000 troops, had charged forth. Overbearing. Unstoppable. 8 streaks of nitrous ignited, 24 blue flames blazing bright, like guardian deities flanking the machine, feeding it endless power. Faster. Stronger. Wilder. It was magnificent. The car slammed onto the ground with earth-shaking weight, then launched forward again at breakneck speed. Idion's soldiers were still frozen, hands clutching their radios, unable to form words. It was too much. Too unreal. For a second, they all had the illusion that what came out of the smoke wasn't a car, but a dragon, roused from its slumber. They thought their explosives had killed an enemy, but instead, they had awakened a monster. Its presence alone made their souls tremble. RR report. The man holding the radio stammered, his hands trembling so hard he nearly dropped it. Jilong's heart sank with dread. He too had heard the engine's roar. That proud, defiant sound, unmistakably Leon's. No other car in the world could roar like that. Sure enough, his man's voice cracked through the static. Leon's car, it flew out of the explosion. What? Jilong howled, blood spewing from his mouth in fury, his body nearly collapsing from rage. Seconds ago, he was celebrating, feeling like he'd already reached heaven. Now, he was slammed back to earth, harder than ever. The contrast was unbearable. This mission had cost them 10,000 landmines, 10 armored blockade vehicles, spike strips, and countless traps. And Leon still came out alive. Worse, stronger. Jilong's mind snapped. He knew what this meant. If Ideon discovered he had wasted so many resources and still failed to kill one man, they would never spare him. Failure meant one thing only, death. His body shook, despair flooding his veins. A bitter laugh escaped his lips. He had chosen the wrong opponent. He never imagined anyone could face this level of firepower and survive. To think he'd mocked Leon earlier, only to be utterly humiliated now. He raised his gun, pressing the barrel against his temple. If I can't even beat a mechanic, what right do I have to go back? Bang! The gunshot echoed. Jilong's body crumpled, lifeless, to the ground. Better to die by his own hand than to return and suffer Ideon's wrath. Once again, Leon had used speed to crush his enemy's schemes. Justice delivered at 900 km per hour. Inside the car, Leon recalled the feeling of racing through the storm of dust and stone. The pressure was insane yet thrilling. That rush! I could do this all day, Leon smirked, savoring the adrenaline. Do this all day. Elena nearly broke down, her tears shimmering like falling petals. She had been terrified, watching boulders crash down on either side, some narrowly missing the rear of the car. A second slower, and they'd have been crushed. One time nearly killed me, Leon, and you want more, she sobbed. Hattie glanced back at her with a sigh. Leon's driving isn't just skill. It's born in the razor's edge between life and death. Her words struck Elena silent. Yes. Leon thrived on danger. Roads others feared, he devoured with excitement. How long have you been training? Elena finally asked, her voice trembling. Leon only smirked, shifting gears. Guess. The Dioma's Nilo roared again, blasting forward, leaving the highway scorched in its wake. Now powered with plasma tech upgrades, the car's speed limit had skyrocketed to 900 km/h 200 more than before. The leap from 700 to 900 wasn't just numbers. It was a whole different world. No wind. No noise. The car sliced through air so fast that it created a thin protective layer at the nose. Behind it, a glowing sonic boom ring spread wide, the mark of breaking the sound barrier. Leaves on the ground didn't stir until seconds after the car had already vanished into the distance. As Leon left the minefield behind, traffic grew heavier. The shockwave from his car nearly flipped nearby vehicles, some of which were lifted onto one wheel, skidding dangerously. What the hell was that? I think it was a car. Did it just break the sound barrier? I swear I just saw a blur. He was gone in seconds. Drivers scrambled, slamming brakes, wide-eyed in terror. They were in the middle of America now, far from the West Coast. Word of Leon, the new street racing god, hadn't reached here yet. To them, what they saw wasn't a car. It was a UFO. Call the police. Call the damn police, one driver shouted, pulling out his phone. Hello? There's something on Highway 1. What exactly? The dispatcher asked flatly. Aliens. They're drag racing on the highway. Silence on the other end. Aliens coming to Earth, just to street race? Wouldn't interstellar drag strips be more fun? The dispatcher rubbed his forehead. This was America after all, land of fast food and slow brains. Did you get the license plate? He asked wearily. No. He was too fast. I couldn't see. How fast? At least 1,000 kilometers per hour. He broke the sound barrier. There was a shockwave. You're insane. The dispatcher hung up. The caller blinked, dumbfounded, then checked his dashcam footage. All it had caught was a blurred shadow. Nothing clear. If even the latest dashcams couldn't record him. How fast had Leon really gone? Unimaginable. Patreon Advance Chapters. patreon.com/dreamer20. Chapter 72, 72, Breaking Through 1,600 Kilometers. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Elena would never have believed that anyone could drive 1,600 kilometers in just an hour and a half. From Los Angeles all the way to Denver, that's over 1,600 kilometers of road. And yet, after blasting past Utah, they reached Denver in just about an hour. Staring out the car window at the dim desert landscape flashing by, Elena's head still felt foggy, as though reality itself hadn't caught up yet. Hattie, are we still dreaming? Elena turned toward Hattie, her voice trembling. No, Hattie's lips had gone pale, her voice weak. I feel like we've just ridden the world's most terrifying roller coaster. A woman who wasn't even afraid of Leon's assassins was now genuinely terrified just from sitting in Leon's car. Leon, of course, burst out laughing, his voice booming with unrestrained joy. Ha ha ha. Worth the 30 million, right? I think I'll need to spend another 500,000 just to cover hospital recovery costs. Hattie muttered softly, as if her spine had been shaken into jelly. Pfft. Elena couldn't hold back a laugh. The tense mood inside the car eased slightly. Now that they had shaken off Leon's small fry, the highway ahead was wide open. The Dioma's Nilo thundered along the asphalt, its roar echoing across the desert. Wherever it passed, the world itself seemed to shudder. Sand and dust whipped up into swirling clouds, even the very crust of the desert floor trembling beneath its tires. The American police tried to pursue, of course. But by the time they started their engines, Leon's car had already vanished over the horizon. The cops could only sigh and pretend they saw nothing. If trouble came later? Well, it wasn't their relatives in danger. So once again, Leon evaded pursuit with infuriating ease. Careful, there's a patrol car up ahead. Elena suddenly warned. But Leon had already spotted it. Relax. Piece of cake. He yanked the electronic handbrake squeak. Tires smoked, the Nilo drifted into a perfect sideways arc, sliding past the police cruiser with barely an inch to spare. As he flew past, Leon even stuck his hand out the window, and flipped them the middle finger. Arrogant as hell. Inside the patrol car, the two officers blinked in stunned disbelief. In just a heartbeat, the black blur was gone, leaving nothing but a tail of flames and a hurricane of wind in its wake. The gust nearly flipped their cruiser off the road, one side's wheels lifting clean off the asphalt before slamming back down. The cops' faces went pale as chalk. What the hell was that? I think, a car just passed us. Passed? That thing broke the sound barrier. I swear on my eyes, it was gone in a blink. Shaken to their core, the two officers exchanged terrified glances. Here in the American Midwest, far from the West Coast, news of Leon's exploits hadn't spread. None of these old-school drivers had any clue that a new speed god was tearing across the states. So to them, what just streaked by wasn't a car at all, it was something alien. Some even reached for their phones, frantically calling it in. Hello? Yes, I'm on Highway 1. There's some kind of alien vehicle here. Aliens, the dispatcher on the other end went dead silent. Yet, he was going insanely fast. The operator pinched the bridge of his nose. Aliens? Really? If they wanted to street race, wouldn't they just do it in space? Still, he went through the motions. Did you at least get a license plate? No, he was way too fast. I couldn't even see the car model. How fast are we talking? At least 1,000 kilometers an hour. There was even a sonic boom ring. You're insane. Click. The dispatcher hung up. The driver stared at his phone in disbelief, then scrambled to check his dashcam footage. But the recording showed nothing but a black blur flashing across the frame. No license plate. No make. Not even a clear outline. His jaw dropped. Even the latest dashcam tech couldn't capture it. Just how fast was that thing going? Unimaginable. Back in the Dioma's Nilo, Leon was laughing so hard his chest hurt. Ha ha ha. Even the cops can't keep up. He wasn't wrong. America's highways stretched long and straight, perfect for high-speed runs. But against him, the police didn't stand a chance. Even if they upgraded every cruiser on the force, they still wouldn't be able to touch him. Elena and Hattie exchanged bitter smiles. Looking across the whole country, who could possibly catch Leon now? By the way, Leon suddenly asked, glancing at them, how do you two even know each other? There was a mission, Elena explained, where Hattie and I teamed up to catch someone. That's when we met. Since they were now allies, there was no point in hiding the truth. Who were you catching? Leon raised a brow. Her brother. Deckard Shaw. Elena answered bluntly. Leon nearly choked. Only in America, a sister chasing down her own brother. One a government agent. The other a wanted criminal. Two siblings walking opposite paths in life. That's dramatic, even for you guys, Leon muttered. So, did you catch him? He let me catch him, Hattie said flatly. And then I let him go. No reason. Just because I felt like it. Leon grinned. Now that's style. Hattie really was like him, acting purely on instinct and mood. If she liked you, she'd help you. If she didn't, you could beg on your knees and it wouldn't matter. You've got a good brother. And he's got a good sister. Leon chuckled, shifting gears again. The Nilo howled as it surged forward, tearing through the highway like a demon set free. At this point, the car was holding a steady 860 km per hour, slightly slowed by the uphill climb. Once they hit a downhill slope again, Leon knew it would push back up to 900. If it weren't for the aerodynamic stabilizers he'd installed, the car might already have taken off like a jet. We've cleared Denver already, Leon announced. Next stop, Chicago. 1,600 kilometers to go. Hattie gave him a thumbs up. 5 hours to New York? I believe it now. Even she couldn't deny it. Leon's speed was beyond human. Ring ring ring. Elena's phone buzzed. She glanced at the caller ID and her face went stiff. It's my commanding officer Hobbs. Leon raised an eyebrow. Oh boy, the big bald tank himself. Hobbs was legendary. A walking mountain of muscle, temper hot as dynamite, veins bulging like coiled ropes. His arms were thicker than most men's thighs. He looked like he lived on a permanent steroid drip. When he called, people usually listened. Elena answered immediately. Yes, sir. Elena Hattie's with you, isn't she? Hobbs' voice was rough, urgent. Yes, sir. She's carrying the virus. Where is it? In her body. We're headed to New York to extract it. What? New York? No, no, no. Bring them to HQ first. I'll figure something out. Sir, we already passed Denver. We're en route to Chicago. What? Hobbs froze, dumbfounded. He had gotten intel just 2 hours ago that they were still outside Los Angeles. And now they were telling him they were already in Denver? Impossible. Unless they'd secretly taken a plane. But there was no record of any flight under their names. We drove. Elena added casually. Hobbs nearly dropped his phone. You what? Drive. 2 hours. 1,600 kilometers. That wasn't driving, that was jet propulsion. Hobbs rubbed his shiny bald head, his worldview cracking apart. Patreon Advance Chapters. patreon.com/dreamer20. Chapter 73, 73, When Foes Cross Paths. If they had taken a plane and arrived in Denver in 2 hours, Hobbs would have thought nothing of it. But driving from Los Angeles to Denver in just 2 hours? That was pure myth. Hobbs couldn't bring himself to believe Elena's words. To him, it sounded more like she was trying to avoid bringing Hattie to the Los Angeles headquarters, making up some ridiculous excuse in the process. Elena, listen, Hobbs said sternly, voice rough with authority. I know you want to protect Hattie. But this is bigger than you think. You two need to head to headquarters first. Elena nearly laughed. If she hadn't been in that car herself, if she hadn't seen Leon push the impossible into reality, she'd never have believed it either. Sir, she replied, holding back a grin, we're planning to be in New York within 5 hours. What? Hobbs froze. His head spun. I suggest you head to the airport right now, Elena continued, teasing a little, because we'll be in New York before 11 o'clock. Hobbs stared at his watch. It was 8 p.m. That gave them just 3 hours. Are you seriously telling me you're driving there? Hobbs' mouth went dry. Yes, Elena said casually. Oh, and we had a little run-in with Idion's forces along the way. You'd better bring heavy firepower. The image of 10,000 mines going off at once flashed through her mind, sending a chill down her spine. Wait for me. Hobbs barked, hanging up in a rush. His head was pounding. His worldview was cracking apart. Driving 2 hours to Denver? What kind of madman pulled that off? Leon wasn't a man, he was a phenomenon. Elena had barely hung up when Hattie's phone started ringing. She glanced at the screen. Her brother, Deckard Shaw. Brother. Hattie's voice was weak. What's wrong? Is the virus acting up? Deckard's tone was sharp with worry. He already knew about the bioweapon inside her. Of course he did. If the world's top mercenary didn't know his sister's situation, what good was his reputation? Hattie managed a faint smile. No. I'm fine. Just, the car's moving so fast it feels like my soul can't keep up. Even at a time like this, she joked. That was her way of telling him it wasn't as bad as it seemed. Car. Deckard frowned. FBI told me you were still in LA. That was 2 hours ago, Hattie said flatly. And now we're past Denver. Deckard's jaw almost hit the floor. Even he, with all his experience, couldn't find words. Driving from LA to Denver in 2 hours? No scriptwriter would dare put that on paper. Is it that silver car guy who picked you up? He asked through clenched teeth. No. Black car. Leon, isn't it? Deckard already knew his name. Hattie looked sideways at Leon, catching his sharp profile under the dashboard lights, handsome, unflinching, radiating raw masculinity. Yes. But listen, brother, don't do anything rash. Relax. He saved you. I won't touch him. That's not what I mean. I'm worried he'll hurt you. Deckard nearly spat blood. Was this still his little sister? Defending a stranger, and worse, insulting him in the process? Leon chuckled at the exchange. Don't worry, Hattie. Your brother's got a good sister. But let me make something clear: if he wants trouble in New York, I'll make sure he spends 2 weeks in a hospital bed. His voice carried, and Deckard heard every word. Bloody hell! Deckard snapped back. Maybe you can outrun me in a car, but in a fight? You've got no chance. Leon's eyes narrowed. He wasn't about to back down. Sure, Westerners like Deckard had genetic and dietary advantages. Their muscle mass came easier. But that didn't make them unbeatable. Leon had something more: unyielding grit and a taste for danger. Say that again when we meet, Leon growled. And when I shove your hand in your mouth and twist it till it breaks, we'll see who laughs last. The tension crackled over the line. Hattie pressed her temples. Great. 2 men with short fuses, and they hadn't even met face to face yet. Enough. Both of you, she snapped, cutting through the testosterone standoff. Leon will get me to New York by 11. You can come in the morning, brother. Fine. I'm on my way, Deckard said after a pause. The moment the call ended, he was already booking a flight online. Then he bolted downstairs, heading straight for his garage. His weapon of choice? The McLaren 720s. The sleek British beast was designed for aerodynamic perfection. Its body lines flowed like liquid metal, its headlights merging seamlessly with the intakes. Underneath, the 4.0L twin-turbocharged V8 roared to life with 710 horsepower, 811 Nm of torque. 0 to 100 in 2.8 seconds. Top speed, 341 km per hour. But compared to Leon's Dioma's Nilo, the McLaren was just another toy. Deckard knew it. The McLaren wouldn't get him to New York in time, not without wings. So he drove it only to the airport, where his real ride would be the first flight out. The McLaren would follow later, shipped by air freight. Slamming the door shut, Deckard muttered, Leon, interesting. Very interesting. He dropped the clutch, the McLaren screaming down the street, braking 100 in less than 2 seconds. A testament to his own driving skill. He was no rookie. If Leon was a legend, Deckard was no less a rival. Back in Leon's car, Hattie hadn't lied. 2 helicopters suddenly appeared ahead of them, searchlights locking onto the Dioma's Nilo. But these weren't police choppers. They belonged to a Dion. And this time, they weren't holding back. It was the Apache A-64, the attack helicopter infamous for battlefield dominance. Armed to the teeth, designed to annihilate tanks, and now, swooping down on one car. The stakes had just gone nuclear. Patreon Advance Chapters. patreon.com/dreamer20. New chapter is coming soon. Write a review.